This video is sponsored by Alliance Heroes of the Spire. This must-have mobile game is for all the RPG lovers watching. With over 10,000 combinations and 400 unique heroes, Alliance offers you absolute freedom to customize to an absurd degree. Many game modes to choose from with real-time PvP, giant bosses, and obviously massive guilds and nation battles. My personal favorite is the bosses, although I can still put up an okay fight against anyone, even those watching. Seriously though, I could make an hour-long report on this game, but it's just better for you to try it out for yourself. Download the game from the link below and I'll gift you 50,000 gold and 50 gems immediately. A great deal, huh? We don't like to brag, but Source is considered the most flexible, comprehensive, and powerful game development environments out there, and it's about to get even better. This is a quote seen on Valve's company website used to describe itself, its platform, and its engine. The only problem with this description is its date, as according to the Wayback Machine, is from all the way back in September of 2011. The idea of a new in-house engine from Valve has been cycling through the gaming community's collective consciousness for some time, and as the years go on, it seems that the average developer is no closer to the Source 2's full toolset and capabilities. The industry has changed since Valve first wanted us to know that Source was about to get, quote, even better. Full conversion mods have gone the way of CDs. A novel relic of the past still kept around not for their practicality or usability, but for our fond memories of them. Modders of the late 90s and the early 2000s have evolved into indie creators of today, and although some of the most popular games today are still born out of these mods, it's not the same ways as the days of Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, and Dota. So where does that put Valve? Well, behind a wall they've built themselves. A wall made out of nearly 8 years of announcements, and it's up to them to get out successfully, because those 8 years have been eventful, yet confusing. Even back in 2010, major gaming publications were calling the incoming announcement of Valve's next-gen engine. Quote, a VG247 source has claimed that Valve's surprise at E3 2010 will be the unveiling of Source Engine 2. The source, who wished to remain anonymous, said it's possible Valve will be showing Half-Life 3 running on it, which would fit the firm's MO of showing Half-Life games on new versions of the code. This was reported by Stephanie Noonley of VG247 back in June of 2010. The issue with these claims, aside from the obvious, is that at this point, Source 2 was not even in the earliest stages of development, as most were focused on Portal 2, a Source Engine 1 game. Anyone focusing on specifically engine development at the time was still working in Source and focusing on fixing the specific problems that engine brought. Quote, one of the things integral to Valve is that everyone's time is their most valuable asset. Everyone treats their own time at work as their very valuable and limited commodity. I think that philosophy ties into our game engine, because if done right, it can essentially be a really useful tool that makes our jobs much easier and much more efficient. Shipping the orange box, Left 4 Dead 1, Left 4 Dead 2, and then Portal 2, basically in a 4-year time frame, has meant that we've had to look back at the Source engine again to improve its workflow. We probably have underinvested in those tools in the past to trade off against shipping products. This was said by Eric Johnson a full year after the E3 rumor. Quote, that's just the way we work. With that engine, we've just updated, not just replaced it. And at some point we may say there's Source 2 or whatever, but really for us, there's been a pretty easy way to keep it and understanding the tools. When you replace an engine, you're replacing the tools and the way people work. There's an expense in man hours and people learning and getting it right. This stated by Chet Falisak in response to why Counter-Strike Global Offensive continued to use Source 1. His hypothetical name drop of Source 2, however, was the first official place it was ever spoken. It would be another year until heard again, as in August 2012, the Source Filmmaker Open Beta released, and as many have always done, the files were mined and some struck gold. Valve Time found the script lines reading DevTools engine source 2 and return string with current engine version. If key doesn't exist, assume source. Otherwise invalid, assume next gen, source 2. Game dev on FacePunch found source 2 tool icons, file names being app icon, terrain tool, toggle control cage, terrain tool select verts, terrain tool edge smooth, paint tool icon, and scale tool icon. Once Gabe Newell's birthday rolled around, being November 3rd, 4chanV paid him a visit, and Gabe took questions for about an hour. In June and October of 2013, Valve's internal project manager software Jira was somehow made public, allowing the entire list of official Office groups to be seen by anyone, both in the titles of the groups and each individual member. 14 groups related to Source 2 existed. Code analysis results, gameplay, artists, builds, characters, entities, mini-dumps, proto-games, tools, triage, assertions, content assertions, and developers, with 65 total people. In between those two Jira leaks, the third Dota 2 International was held. In preparation for the event, members of our Dota 2 were given a tour of Valve, and someone took this picture. This is Valve's internal changelog from 1:50 p.m. until 3:50 p.m. on August 5th, 2013. In this 2-hour time frame, 11 commits were made to Source 2. Seaboat, also known as Crazy Buttocks on a Train, was a user on NeoGAF whom on January 27th, 2014 leaked this image, a PowerPoint named Source 2 External. This presentation appeared to show off a remade version of the Plantation from Left 4 Dead 2. Now later on in the thread, Seaboat would leak more images of the remake along with this developer directory, showing off many unreleased and unknown builds of projects made within Source 2. However, many question the legitimacy of specifically this directory. Later in the year, Gabe held an AMA, and one of the questions asked to him was, what improvements will we see out of the Source 2 engine? Quote, the biggest improvements will be an increasing productivity of content creation. That focus is driven by the importance we see in user-generated content having going forward. A professional developer at Valve will put up with a lot of pain that won't work if users themselves have to create content. Then in August of 2014, the Dota 2 workshop tools were released, and upon first inspection, users discovered that the tools were all made within Source 2. A post on Reddit created by Roy Awesome exemplifies how people reacted. By the way, the app ID within the workshop tools lined up with the app ID seen within the leaked directory from Seaboat months earlier on NeoGAF. GDC was an important event for Valve, announcing their marketing plan dubbed Steam Universe, first teased to demo the Steam VR system. Then, when GDC started, Valve fans were treated to the Steam controller, Steam Link, Steam Machines, and Steam VR. However, a lesser pushed announcement was that Source 2 would be completely free to license, as long as the content was released on Steam. Quote, with Source 2, our focus is increasing creator productivity. Given how important user-generated content has become, Source 2 is designed not just for the professional developer, but enabling gamers themselves to participate in the creation and development of their favorite game. The release required for the license on Steam is not an exclusive one, by the way. The project only has to be released on Steam along with everything else. A day into the show floor, Valve started demoing their first VR system with press and creators, with the main piece of software taking place in Aperture Science titled Robot Repair. And according to Joe Ludwig on Twitter, quote, yes, the Aperture demo is in Source 2. A day later, SteamDB's own Marleman was at a talk related to the Vulkan API led by Valve, where they showed off Dota 2 running in Source 2. A few months later, the Dota 2 Reborn beta was announced and released, and the full Source 2 build of Dota 2 was fully released in August. As for the supposedly free development tools, to this day, no true words have been spoken, only leaks. In October 2015, a file named hl3.txt leaked alongside a few others showing some Half-Life development in supposedly Source 2. In February, the Steam VR Performance Test Bench leaked, along with the internal development repo being temporarily publicly downloaded through a command line script, resulting in many Source 2 tests being leaked. Destinations was released in June of 2016, which also ran in Source 2, and its development tools were a step closer to a full replacement of Source 1's SDK. In January, Gabe held a productive Ask Me Anything, one question being from the Four-Leaf Clover. Quote, does Valve plan on doing anything with Source 2 in the coming years? If so, what? Quote, we are continuing to use Source 2 as our primary game development environment. Aside from moving Dota 2 to the engine recently, we are using it as the foundation of some unannounced products. We would like to have everyone working on games at Valve to eventually be using the same engine. We also intend to continue to make Source 2 engine work available to the broad developer community as we go, and to make it free of charge. Now, I went to Valve the following month, and Doug Lombardi and Ido Magal stated this.
The first step would be the product being on Source 2, because that's kind of where all of our content development is heading anyway, so.
Source 2 is still like first focus kind of thing.
If you're going to go down the path of user extensibility, you can start there.
Okay.
That was kind of the goal, which we think we did pretty well at, was building a set of tools for developers to be able to create content much more efficiently.
So like the Onion...
In everything, all that is just much better.
The Unreal and Unity scares that were going on there for a little bit, like VR team pretty much working in Unity, but for a reasonable thing, but like also Unreal being such this big thing. Valve is going to stick with their own proprietary engine, and you don't think that they're going to move over to Unreal or Unity for a full game product?
I think we'll probably use Source 2.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't it part of that Source 2? Well, yeah, so Source 2, which is in CSGO's future, and probably every Valve's product's future, that isn't already Source 2, is easier content creation, and so that is the long-term vision.
And Gabe Newell stated this.
So if it's useful to people, it's available for them to use. We're going to get more explicit about how it gets out to people, but we don't view it as like, for us, it's insanely useful, right? It does exactly what we need an engine to do, and it's evolving in the directions that we think are important. It's kind of an industrial strength solution, right? For our developers, it works great. For other developers, it's not nearly as useful as Unity. So it's sort of like, it's here, people want it. It's not a separate initiative, but it's everybody inside knows we have to get to the point where we're just giving it away to anybody who wants it. That involves a lot of work to get all the documentation done and, figure out how we're going to update people when they're in the middle of doing their own development, stuff like that. So that's where we're going to get. It's just a question of people prioritizing that. There'll be some things that are a lot easier for people to do. Like, it'll be something like there's some VR thing where we have to do it for Source 2, and then that'll be the tipping point where people say, oh, this solves a bunch of problems for me. But we view it as a tool, right? It's like anything else. You can just sort of think of it as it's part of Steam, right? There are lots of things in Steam that are useful to developers and other things that aren't. We just need to just keep rolling it out to people as we go forward. Sure. But it's not a way we make money, right? It's a way to, for developers that look at it and say, wow, that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Solves a problem for me.
Then, in April, when CSGO was first releasing in the Chinese Perfect World market, the presentation put on by Perfect World announced a Source 2 port in the distant future. In March of 2018, Valve held a press event for Artifact, the then upcoming Dota 2 card game, where not only it was announced to be running in Source 2, but also that Source 2, and in effect Dota 2, was running on Android and iOS tablets, along with Linux and Macs. So since then, most have assumed that the tools were getting there, and may release with one of the full VR games or possibly Artifact. However, when talking with Gray Newell, being Gabe Newell's son, about why he wasn't using Source 2 for his upcoming game Fury, Gray said this.
The biggest problem of it is nobody knows anything. When we went to go talk to them about Source 2, nobody actually knew anything. Dead serious. They just were like, you should go talk to this person. You should go talk to this person. And it just started going in a loop. And we went back to the previous person they told us to talk to. And I was like, all right, this isn't going to happen.